content was independently created by She Media with funding from Novartis Pharmaceuticals. Participants were not compensated.
How can we use our voice to make a difference is really based on perhaps the skills that we have as individuals and how we can utilize those skills to help a cause.
Flow. It's that feeling when you are totally locked in. It's intense focus and engagement in an activity with a sense of effortless concentration, enjoyment, and a loss of self-consciousness. I'm Samantha Skey, CEO of She Media, and this is Finding Flow. I'm obsessed with the idea of flow because if we can learn to harness that feeling, it can do so much for us. It can bring us joy, purpose, peace. Flow allows us to access our most powerful internal resources and to exist in the present. We're going to talk to people from all walks of life and unpack what anchors them in the present. How do they find that flow space, even when life is hard, and what do they create when they are there? The feeling is different for everyone, but life-changing once you discover it. With this podcast, we hope that you find yours. Our first few episodes of Finding Flow consist of a special series called This Moment Belongs to Me. We focus on a group of people who find themselves in an especially challenging position. I'm talking about breast cancer patients, women who are navigating all that life throws at them while also handling this diagnosis. And these women must readjust to what every woman navigates: agency and advocacy. We are doing things a little differently in this episode because we have two excellent guests who have both been diagnosed with breast cancer and have used their stories to ignite change and inspire action. Our first guest is going to walk us through her flow moment in the face of her breast cancer diagnosis and her advocacy journey. Jeanelle Adams first started seeing symptoms during the COVID lockdown. At first, her symptoms were misdiagnosed as eczema. It took nearly 2 years for her to be accurately diagnosed. She turned her painful experience into purpose by becoming a breast cancer policy lobbyist in her home state, New Jersey. I love talking to Jeanelle because Janelle's advocacy plays upon one of her greatest strengths as a 7th grade teacher. She's a translator and, as she says, an experienced code switcher, and can communicate with both legislators and local members of her community who may not think about breast cancer in their daily lives. She is proud of the work she does, but incredibly humble, and will never describe herself as an advocate because she is just, as she says, speaking up and telling the truth. Welcome, Jeanelle Adams. Jeanelle, thank you so much for being with us. There are so many things I'm eager to ask you about here on Finding Flow. I wanted to start with just give us a day in the life of Jeanelle pre-diagnosis. What was your life like?
My life before cancer, I was an educator. So I was an educator for about 10 years, I would say, off and on. And then I had this aha moment in 2020 when the pandemic happened. I did not like virtual learning for my daughter. So I stopped, took her out of school, homeschooled her, stopped working, was like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm going to be artsy, do my thing.
Crafting.
I'm going to just figure something out. Then I started having these symptoms in 2020. So that was my life prior. 2020 is when everything happened. Started having symptoms on my boob. But I was still living life, being a mom. My daughter was, 7, 8? I don't know. She was young. And I was just regular, taking her to school, going to yoga, all that great stuff. And then 2020 happened, rash on my boob, continuously went to multiple doctors for a long time. But because of the pandemic, I felt like my appointments were too long. It was taking too long. Then I was getting virtual appointments and everything because it was every 3 months.
Okay.
And then it was, you're young. It's nothing. It's just
didn't look like you had breast cancer. It just didn't.
No, at all.
I saw.
I don't look like I have breast cancer. I don't look like you're a normal person who would have breast cancer. I'm Black. I'm young. I'm from an urban area. I dress a certain way. I talk a certain way. So I go to the doctors. Physicians just think I don't know what I'm talking about. So I was told I had eczema for 2 years until I did exactly what they say we Black women are, act like an angry Black woman, and eventually got a referral. Because I had my mama on my back. She had my back and she drove me to go get that referral. And that's when I eventually, 2 years later, 2022 was diagnosed. So the reality of my situation was I wasn't like shocked because I felt like I knew. I just wanted the confirmation. So when I was told that I was diagnosed, it was more so my doctor's very straightforward. And he just was like, this is real. He was like, you have cancer.
But did you feel validated on a little bit? A little
somewhat.
bit like, okay, I
So,
told you.
Yeah. So somewhat. When I got in the car with my husband, I just kind of looked at him and I was like, I knew it. I knew it. Like I already knew there was something going on with me. I wasn't going crazy.
And did you experience that moment as fear? It sounds like you'd already gone through the suffering maybe of recognizing that you had this disease.
It was fear more so because of my daughter, right? That's my biggest thing. Being able to see her grow and take her to school and do everything with her. And so that was just my fear. But I wasn't really fearful of anything else but just that time with her.
Interesting. That's where our heads and hearts go.
Right.
I think right away.
Crazy.
Okay. So after being dismissed and misdiagnosed, did you have any conversations with doctors to say, gosh, doctor, I really wish you'd seen me?
I did. Well, my initial doctor who misdiagnosed me, I did have her, I confronted her. I had to. I'm just that type of person. So I did confront her and I told her what it was. Just don't tell no one that you're too young. Just give them a mammogram.
I mean, if you go into, I believe most doctors do go into medicine to help people and to have that. And I love that you made it so specific. I had read that before, that you said just don't tell people they're too young.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the biggest thing because you're not.
Right.
It's not.
And what would you have me do? Wait until it's like,
till I'm gone?
So you've got the diagnosis and your mom sounds like was a supporter and your daughter a driver, and your husband a good guy who drove you to the appointments and stayed there through all of them.
He's what they call a co-survivor, right? But he's definitely like the one who did everything. He's the one who pushes me and tells me, like, even when I was in treatment, he's like, you're going to get through this. And I never believed it. And I did.
Wow. And so you became, one of the reasons we are so in awe of you is that you've become a really dynamic advocate for women, for breast health, for legislation on all of the and beta markers and all the ways in which we might get ahead of diagnosis and treatment. And clearly you've taken this responsibility on. I'm wondering, so when I think of advocates, do you feel like you were born that? Like, how do you do that? Like, how does
God.
Like, I would go to bed and watch Netflix a lot. No. Like, if I got a scary diagnosis like that, and maybe like just hug my daughter in a way that was creepy. What happened for you?
I feel like I was never advocating. Like, I just was talking shit. Honestly,
I can see that.
I was just being honest and saying everything that I was going through. And then that was, I guess, a form of advocacy. And I wanted to actively share my journey while actively going through it. Because when I was going through it, I didn't see people like me that looked like me going through it. So I wanted to be that person for people, And also, I really didn't think I was going to make it. So I wanted my daughter to see something. So if she has to go through that, she can kind of know what to say and she can have a community behind her. When
you started speaking more publicly than in your room, was that a little scary? Was it something that you were comfortable doing already? Had you grown up sort of beating up the bully?
I'm the oldest child.
Okay, that tells us a little bit. It doesn't feel like a middle child activation.
I'm the oldest child, and I was a teacher, so I felt like I kind of put the hat on real quick. And I've never really been shy of saying anything that I wanted, or I've always been vocal in my community. Like, I guess advocated in my community, but it's not advocating. It was just saying something that was wrong. We needed garbage cans on the block and things like that. So it was just something that I was always used to.
It's really cool. I love this concept that it's not like you flipped into an advocacy mode.
Yeah.
It's that it seems like it was so inherent in your person and organic and natural, which is kind of what I guess we want to really encourage in our communities and our daughters, is just speak your
up.
truth.
Speak up.
Speak up.
Yeah. But it's really, for me, it's Being young, being Black, when I see the buses in my neighborhood with breast cancer symbols, they are old white women in my neighborhood. There's no old white women that
Yeah,
live
you're
in
like,
my
that's not going
neighborhood.
to be me.
Yeah, so
Right.
how is that going? How am I going to talk to my people, right? How am I going to go to these high schools and talk to girls that are like me from where I'm from and walk the same streets that my daughter walks? How can I do that? So that's really what it is. It is for everyone else, I guess. For the 10 girls behind me.
What an advocate is.
Yeah, I guess.
You don't have to wear the shirt or the whatever or the pin. I think it's a great, and so the insight, which you seem to have lived, of people who look at me don't see what they need to see. They don't see the truth.
Right.
They see something else.
Yeah, something totally different.
Yeah, and then that would mean maybe the girls who see the old white ladies on the buses are like, oh, that's not
that
me
doesn't
either.
affect me.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you look or where you're from or anything. It's gonna happen. Definitely 1 in 8. It's definitely a statistic. So
1 in 8.
1 in 8.
So Jeanelle, biomarkers, what are they?
Biomarker, I'm gonna tell you what the testing is. So the biomarker is going to test your biomarkers, which is all the different markers wherever your bodies are. It's like a blood test, right? But it's like an MRI, and what it does is gives you the standardized treatment for your care, so you don't be misdiagnosed and you don't have the wrong treatment. And it's not just for cancer; it's for autoimmune diseases like lupus. It's actually a clinical trial for Alzheimer's right now. It's different. It's for different autoimmune diseases.
So it's coming.
It saved my life. Okay. It's the reason why I was diagnosed with triple negative. Triple negative is an aggressive form of breast cancer, and there's no standardized care. Without biomarker testing, I would have not gotten the right care. I would have probably been through different treatments and different loopholes.
That's amazing. And that was incredibly educational for all of us. And they weren't given to everyone.
It's not given to everyone, but because where I was, the hospital that I'm at is a research hospital, that's why I was there.
When you started to get more active with legislation, which I believe New Jersey is the first to do some things. Can we talk about a little Jersey pride?
Yes. New Jersey is the only state to legalize the bill, which I testified on twice, the biomarker bill. And biomarker testing is a test that is right when you're diagnosed. You have that test. Not everyone has access to that. But now New Jersey residents, if you're on Medicaid, if you any insurance, you have access to that. And what that test is, it gives you the correct standardized treatment.
Wow.
Yes.
That's kind of a dope thing to have done.
It is.
Like that's
kind of small, but it's really,
small.
No, thank you.
So why Jersey first?
I honestly don't know why New Jersey was the only one because it testified against the board in other states, and it's still kind of pending in New York and Connecticut and Pennsylvania. But New Jersey, the first time I did it, it was 1 no. But then the second time it was all yay.
I just thank you for that because I have a daughter also. And I think that kind of work is, there's things that don't seem as sexy as like a billboard.
Right.
The things that allow you to begin to take for granted that you're going to get these tests and these opportunities for treatment that just weren't around. I think this of, BRCA gene, like the ability to see things that, without not just the science, but the people who push the science and who push the law to catch up with the science. Without that, we have very little progress.
Also, it's not just breast cancer. There's different type of breast cancers.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I think people need to be knowledgeable on, especially if you want to get into Breast Cancer Awareness Month, just.
How would you recommend we become smarter about that?
I just think asking, honestly. I think a lot of people, I like to say regular people, because I'm in the cancer world.
Sure.
So I just think that they're, a little bit too timid. But if we're fighting this fight, we're very open about what we're going through. We may be a little bit dark, but we're definitely open about whatever we're going through.
So you welcome all the questions.
I welcome all the questions, everything, especially if you're newly diagnosed and you're newly walking this walk. I want you to have whatever experience I went through. And if I don't have that, I will definitely give you to someone else.
You feel passionately, it seems, about the opportunity to have this testing. How were you able to make that available for others?
So I went to City Hall, and where I'm from in Newark, I went downtown to City Hall. There was an event, and I met someone just randomly, breast cancer advocate. She's not a survivor or anything, but I just met her, and she asked me, "Did you have biomarker testing?" And I said, "Yeah." And that's really where I was. And then she said, "I want to connect you with someone from ACS CAN," and that was the relation from that. And I started talking to ACS CAN, and that from there we just kind of went.
And they said, I think you should go and testify.
Yeah. So they said to me, well, the grassroots manager, she said to me, "I think you would be great if you can do a campaign." It was just a campaign. It was just a video at first. And then from there it went to, "Hey, Jeanelle, can you come to downtown Newark to the senator's office?" And I said, "Okay."
So from your self-discovery, maybe, do you think things about you have changed? Is there anything you notice?
What has changed is something really real. You remember Shallow Hal, the movie?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's such a funny, weird reference.
It is, but I feel like I was very vain before. So now going through this experience has been a different experience for me. I've learned how to embrace, quote unquote, my ugly and my all and my fullness. And I never had to do that before because I've always just focused. It was always just like, "You're pretty, you're okay," So now it's just been a different experience.
Do you feel differently about yourself physically, your body?
Everything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's everything. I don't think of life the same anymore. So the little complaints that people have are they're so small. It's not that serious, okay? I had anal fissures before because of chemotherapy. I didn't have nails, so it's like, let's be real. Whatever you're complaining about, it's not that serious. So I think it's just, I'm so different. I don't even care how I look when I go to the store anymore. I used to get all dolled up and all this. I don't care no more. It is what it is. You're going to see me.
To watch all the episodes in the breast cancer series and to find more inspiring content about surviving and thriving after a breast cancer diagnosis, visit www.theflowspace.com/p/this-belongs-to-me. Your space for support, inspiration, and real conversations. Now we turn to our second guest, Tami Bowling, who was originally diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer until doctors discovered it had spread to her liver. This made her diagnosis stage 4 and terminal. However, she's thrived for the last 10 years, using the time for good and creating experiences ranging from fundraisers in her home to global events to raise awareness for stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. I love talking to Tami because she has clearly taken her 20 years of experience in media, marketing, and sales and applied it to a cause that is not only deeply meaningful to her, but also overlooked by much of the research in the field of breast health. Welcome, Tami Bowling. Thank you for joining us. You likewise have an incredible story, a story of incredible disruption to what seems like a very productive career and life. So I'd love to hear what your life was like prior to your diagnosis.
Yes. I mean, it was kind of your typical live in the city, have kids while you're in the city, work full time because everyone has to work full time trying to pay for a New York City apartment. And my children were 2 and 4 years old, and I really enjoyed going to, all their activities, and we just felt that it was time to move to New Jersey. So we did. We made the big move before my daughter had to start kindergarten, and I decided that I would take a year off to, get the kids settled in a new school, in a new town. I had already been working in the corporate world, crazy hours for 20 years. And when I moved, I needed a new internal medicine doctor in New Jersey. And she looked at me, and I was 41 years old. And she said, "Oh, you have a clean bill of health. Everything looks great." "Oh, but I noticed it's been about a year and a half since your baseline mammogram." Because I was 41, so I'd only gone for one mammogram.
Right, sure.
And I said, "Oh, yeah, well, there's no history of breast cancer in my family, but I'll make sure that I go for the mammogram." And lo and behold, I did, and they saw that there was breast cancer. And I thought, you know what? So many people are diagnosed. We've talked about the 1 in 8.
Right.
But from what I knew, I thought it was survivable. I thought, well, I'm just going to have surgery and take off my breasts and I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I met with 4 breast surgeons and 2 reconstructive surgeons. I actually had a date set for surgery when the surgeon said, you know, I'm looking at this again and I see that it was in your lymph nodes. So before we do any kind of surgery, we should really scan your whole body just to make sure it hasn't spread anywhere else. And I literally looked at her like she was crazy. Like, what do you mean spread anywhere else? I had never heard that that was even possible. And here it was. I worked in the corporate world for 20 years. I thought I was well-educated, women's magazines, and I had no idea it could spread. So when they did the PET scan afterwards, you know, they called and they said, unfortunately, it did spread and it's already in your liver. And this means that you have stage 4 breast cancer.
Wow. And so how did that hit you physically, mentally, emotionally?
You know, it was obviously devastating. The first thing that I thought of was my children. You know, they were 2 and 4 years old. So the first thing that came to mind was just, oh my gosh, you know, they need a mom, right? Like, I want to be the one to raise my kids and teach them values and braid their hair and teach them to read. And, you know, will I be able to do all of that? But the thing about living with metastatic breast cancer is that there is no cure. And I was given a 2 to 3 year life expectancy because unfortunately, on average, that is the life expectancy once you're diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer.
And I know you have a sort of mantra to live each day in a way that is meaningful. And I imagine, I don't know how you flipped from I might not get to braid my daughter's hair to I'm just going to make this day good.
Yeah.
Was there how did that transition, that mentality?
You know, I probably wasn't very, very safe to be around on the road after I dropped my kids at nursery school because, you know, don't forget, they weren't even in kindergarten yet, right? They were both still just in preschool. And I would just hold it together, drop them off. And as soon as I left the parking lot, just tears would come down, you know, every day for months until I just finally said, you know what? I'm going to be the one to braid their hair and I'm going to teach them the values because I had this diagnosis, but I'm the same person that I was before they told me this news. And on a day that I'm physically feeling good enough to go out and enjoy this life and enjoy this world, I'm not going to let cancer take another minute of that. And there was this change, this strength that came upon me that there's a lot of things that cancer can't control. You know, that you can't control about the cancer, I should say. Okay. You know, like if you're not feeling good or if I have metastatic breast cancer, I can't control that. I mean, I was diagnosed with this, but I can control my perspective. I can control my mindset.
Who helped you hoist yourself into this position of, I'm going to be the one who's going to teach my girls the thing. And then from there, I'm also going to be the one who's going to help educate and inspire leagues of people to understand breast cancer better. And I just don't think it's that easy. I just don't think it's easy.
I know I'm very close with my family, my mom, my dad. And right when this happened, my father said to me, there's a special quote that I want you to always remember. And that is that life is 10% what happens and 90% how you choose to react to it. So I decided to own that perspective and make that choice every day that I was going to live in this life and I was going to create a legacy for my girls and hopefully for future generations so that nobody has to die from breast cancer.
So tell us about that, about the lights, literal, we're going from the figure to the literal lights that you have illuminated around the world. So tell us about that. That initiative.
Well, you know, I think we've all seen the sea of pink and, you know, that represents survivorship and that's great for the 70% of people that are detected early, and 70% of the time they will live cancer-free, even after that breast cancer, diagnosis. But I think what people don't talk about a lot is that 30% of the time, even after a double mastectomy, chemo, radiation, you still have a recurrence as stage 4. And if you ever heard of anyone that died of breast cancer, it was because it metastasized, that it spread beyond the breast. But there's so little funding. Only 13% of global breast cancer research funding goes to stage 4. Yet 98% of all breast cancer deaths are from stage 4. So when I learned more about the facts, I set my mind to figuring out how I could raise more funds that were specific to stage 4 breast cancer research. And I heard about a campaign where a landmark lit up in 2017. It was started by a woman by the name of Laura Inahara. And it was called Light Up MBC, meaning metastatic breast cancer. And she had a friend who unfortunately passed away at the age of 36, but wanted a landmark to light beyond just pink. Why? To create this conversation. Oh, this landmark's lighting in pink, teal, and green, but it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Like, what do those colors mean? And be inclusive of all stages of breast cancer. So Medivivor is a nonprofit organization that first designed this tricolor ribbon that I'm actually wearing right here. That's the pink, teal, and green. And the Portsmouth Memorial Bridge was the first landmark to light in 2017. And then it grew to 80 landmarks in 2019, which is when I got involved. And this year, over 270 landmarks across 105 cities around the world all light up in pink, teal, and green on Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day. But then utilizing my background in marketing and sales and brand management, I was able to think of different ways. It's like, wow, 270 landmarks are lighting up. How are we going to get the landmarks to spread awareness? So now I write social media copy along with, I have an amazing team of Light Up NBC ambassadors around the world and a volunteer leadership team. Now this campaign has grown so much, and these landmarks post on their social channels. What do these colors mean? Today is Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day. We are standing in solidarity with the stage 4 community. We supply graphics to them. So there's just different ways that my marketing background has helped not only increase awareness, but more importantly, raise funds. Because that year, when in 2019, it only raised $5,000 from T-shirt sales.
Right.
So I came up with an idea, and I said to the founder, I said, well, what if I could create a show? And I could call this show Light Up NBC Live, because all these landmarks are lighting, but no one could see what they look like. So then what if we could have patients stand at the landmarks, and then they could share their stories with the landmarks behind them? And, music is something that's always just really inspired me. So what if we could have musicians, record songs or verses, then curate the content and have it be really inspiring? And that's what we did. And this will be the 6th year of Light Up NBC Live. And it's now raised over $2 million to benefit Medivivor to fund stage 4 breast cancer research.
Just tell us about your first experience fundraising for the cause.
This is a very challenging diagnosis. And I felt that if I could fundraise, I could give some purpose to the diagnosis. And there's this whole notion of healing through advocacy that I think benefited not only me, but so many other people. And that's really why I became such a big advocate, to teach people how to heal through advocacy. And I first started by just opening my house and having just businesses like T-shirt sales or stationery or candles or, little things, mostly female-owned businesses, to be honest, come and then they gave a percentage of the sales to the charity, that night. And I always joke around that my husband came home and looked in our bathroom and he said, "Why is there a firefighter giving massages in our bathroom?" And I said, "Oh, it's for a great cause. It's for a great cause."
That's amazing.
But maybe people heard about that because we had, like 70 people the first year. And then I did it at my house again. There was 120 people in my house. So there was people selling items in one kid's room, the other kid's room, downstairs, the basement. I mean, every room was a different vendor.
That's wild.
But, the community really came together. They donated food. And I think that's something also is a silver lining. Look, none of us want to get any type of cancer, let alone something that's considered terminal. But the love that you feel from your family, from your friends, and from your community is so special. And, maybe it's something that you wouldn't have felt had you not had the diagnosis. And I didn't know how long I had to live, and I still don't know. And that's scary because...
How long has it been?
Well, see, there's no cure, right? So we still go for scans every 4 months to check for tumor progression. But I've now been living with metastatic breast cancer for 10 years.
Whoa, snaps for that. Wow. You guys have gone big on your work, your advocacy, your impact is huge and magnificent. I agree with you on healing through advocacy being part of the journey and helping so many of us to feel a part of something bigger than ourselves. What are other ways in which you would recommend that we all advocate for a cause we care about? Little ways, big ways, anything that comes to mind.
I would say the first way to advocate is always just speak up for whatever you feel is wrong and everything. But when it comes to the community, if it's this community or any community, I would say there's different forms. There's content. You can go online. You don't have to go online. You can join support groups. You can try the legislative way, join different organizations. Advocating to me is just speaking your mind and always standing up for what you believe is right. That's really what it is.
What are some other things you suggest for people who want to support their loved ones, themselves, their sisters and brothers in arms?
To your point, obviously using your voice, but how can we use our voice to make a difference is really based on perhaps the skills that we have as individuals and how we can utilize those skills to help a cause. So if someone is in sales and they're okay asking for the order, asking for the money, maybe there is a race happening in their area and they say, you know what, I don't have a problem knocking on doors. I'll sell some sponsorships for you. But maybe someone's a graphic designer and there's a cause that they care about and they can call, the organization and say, hey, you know what? I'm willing to give you a couple hours a week if you guys need some social media graphics. I think it's taking the skills that you have and perhaps that you've used in your career and then taking them to another level to help society and contribute in a bigger way.
I love the idea of thinking about the things we're good at because it's not like being an advocate is one specific superhero suit. It's probably all the things and
little things too, things that you don't even know.
Well, I think that, there's so many different ways, I'll use the word, to advocate, right? And sometimes, even through the Light Up NBC campaign, people would like to get a landmark to light in their town and that feels meaningful for them. Sometimes they want to get a proclamation from their mayor or their governor. I just got one from Governor Hochul, which was actually amazing about metastatic breast cancer. So thank you, Governor Hochul. So, that's great. And sometimes, to your point, they want to fundraise, but they don't always want to. There's other ways. And sometimes they want to march in Washington to get bills passed. And one of the bills that I've been involved in the last couple of years is called the NBC Access to Care Act. Right now, upon diagnosis, you've got to wait 5 months to get approved for Social Security disability. And you've paid into the system. It's the hardest diagnosis you'll ever get in your life. Meanwhile, you have to wait 5 months to have access to that money. And then after you're on Social Security disability, then you've got to wait 2 years to have access to Medicare. Meanwhile, they've given you a 2 to 3 year life expectancy.
Oh my God, that's
so. How does that make any sense at all?
And you're addressing this.
Yes. So right now, there's about 145 co-sponsors to the bill, and it just takes time. And what's very frustrating is that we only have 2 years to get a bill passed. And if it doesn't pass, then it dies and it's got to be reintroduced. So both of, this bill still has to have a companion bill in the Senate introduced. But Medivivor does a stage 4 stampede, and we talk to legislators, in our state just about ways for quality of life for metastatic breast cancer patients and all cancer patients.
You both won a recognition, an award of sorts from a very big organization.
Where do I begin? There's a conference called the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium, and there's thousands and thousands of people in the medical world, the nonprofit world. Everyone that touches breast cancer in some way is at this conference. But it can be expensive to go there as an individual, having to pay for airfare or flights. So there's a very prestigious program called the Alamo Advocate Scholar Program that you can apply to get a scholarship to pay for those expenses. And in exchange, while you're there, you're offering the patient perspective, you're sitting on panels and doing stuff as an Alamo Advocate Scholar. So I was very excited that I was accepted into the program this year. And so I'll be going to San Antonio this December for that conference. And the funny thing is,
I was on that call.
So why are you going to San Antonio?
Well, I received the same scholarship she received, and
which is the Alamo Advocate
Scholar Program.
Yeah.
And just when we met up today, she said, "Were
must
you
be
on
the-
that
yeah,
Zoom
you're
last
on
week of the Alamo Advocate Scholar Program?" So
yeah, and we have like, oh, okay. And then I emailed her, and then she never sent me the information.
You know what? Oh, okay.
I said, "Oh my gosh, I owe you an
She was like,
email."
oh, you're the one who's
Wow. Okay.
Well, it was about
how
Light
it is,
Up
right,
NBC,
yeah.
so I got to tell her.
You know it is,
You
yeah.
can't avoid it.
And now we're going to be spending
Yeah.
a week together,
That's so fun.
like on the same panels in San Antonio.
Yeah, it's going to be really, I look forward to seeing the swirl of turquoise and green emerge in San Antonio. That is very cool. And that is that's more serendipity
Yes.
for our community, for your community and the community that you give so much to. I'm obsessed with the idea that we all have within us the ability to find flow. And I just wanted to know more about where you each might find your flow.
I would say I find my flow. I would like to call myself the translator between legislators and the cancer community. So I like to, because they're the lawmakers, right?
Yeah.
I know how to talk to the lawmakers. I have access to the lawmakers, but I also have access to the community. And I like to bring those stories to them. So it's not just statistics. It's not just numbers. It's actual stories. And then I like to have my own. That's my flow. It's a feel-good flow when you can talk to the legislators, lawmakers, and actually it might not be my story. It might be Tami's story that I can bring up, but I can bring her story up and that can change how they thought about something,
I do.
And that's a great feeling to have when you have those type of relationships. And it's great that I'm able to bring those stories. It's more so about representation, right? For me, right? My community, my people. I want to be able to speak to everybody, but what's important to me is people that look like me and come from where I come from so they can see, okay, she knows what she's talking about and she's actually out here doing this. And my jargon is completely different from a lot of other people's jargon. So I can kind of talk to those communities and talk to the other communities. So I'm able to bridge that. And that's
pretty
unique. Great thing.
It's unique using those bridging.
Yeah. What is it? What do they call it? When you can code switching. Yeah. Code switching.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's kitchen.
Yeah.
Code switching. Yeah.
But I feel like you maybe are authentic in all the codes.
I try to be. I try to be authentic. I don't want to wear a suit or anything because that's not where I'm from. That's not what I represent. I don't want people from where I'm from to say, oh, come on now, what are you doing?
Right.
That's not you. You don't even do that. So I want to always be me and want my people to always be me and the community to see me as me.
And to be proud of
And
what
to be
they
proud of.
Yeah.
Because, why should it matter what I'm wearing? I know what I'm talking about.
Right. It's an amazing gift. All right, my darling Tami, where do you find flow?
I get that flow when I feel like I'm making a difference in other people's lives, because that is the legacy that I hope to create. So, when I get a phone call from someone in Australia who heard about Light Up NBC, who doesn't know that many people living with it, even though it's a huge country, and she reaches out to me to say, how do I get a landmark to light, and is able to secure it and tell stories and do something. And now, making this campaign global, that's meaningful. And, someone else who it took her a year, but this year she got a landmark to light. She got a proclamation from her mayor. She's hosting a watch party. It's not just the fact she's doing those things. It's that it's bringing her healing. It's bringing her purpose. And that's now happening for hundreds of people, around the world. And that's the greatest thing. That is how I find my flow. I do want to just give Jeanelle something here. So my saying that has helped me through just really, really tough times, we talked about my dad's quote, was this whole idea of keeping your faith stronger than your fear. And not even necessarily about religion, but about science and the possibilities of the future, and that we can live a long life. So this is a bracelet I designed through Little Words Project, and I'd like to give one.
What does it say? Tell me.
It says faith over fear.
Love it.
Yeah, to always
love it. All F's. Feel a little bit left out, but I'm okay.
No, we changed. Yeah, exactly.
Like this was about me, and now it's not.
Sorry, I only have one for her, but
I'm just joking, honestly. You guys, thanks so much for joining us. It is my favorite part of the job, is speaking to powerhouses like yourselves who are willing to put forth so much. I know it's awesome and you smile and have nice outfits and all of the things and look beautiful, but it is hard work, and that is so respected and appreciated. What's so special about this conversation is that both of our guests were people who were diagnosed and who ultimately were able to take their natural skills and apply them to make change for a community far beyond themselves. As we've heard, the stories about agency and advocacy from our two guests have given us a lot to think about. Every person, every patient is different. So please be sure to talk to your own doctor before embarking on any new treatments or fitness routines. Hopefully, if you or a loved one find yourself in a similar situation, our conversation has given you some ideas for what you might ask your healthcare provider. For more content about breast cancer, visit This Moment Belongs to Me special series on theflowspace.com, www.theflowspace.com/p/this-moment-belongs-to-me. And be sure to subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, or YouTube. I'm your host, Samantha Skey. Our producers are Adrian Bain and Allie O'Connell. Our editor is Edie Allard. Our talent coordinators are Brittany Roden and Caitlin Corkery. Our project manager is Leanne Luong. Our head of advertiser services is Erica Kirshner. Our designers are Laura Kavanaugh and Kaylin Johnson. Hair and makeup, if you are watching on video, is the Glam Squad. And our executive producer is Susan Getgood. Content was independently created by She Media with funding from Novartis Pharmaceuticals. Participants were not compensated.